Hi, boys and girls. The next chapter is a little long, so let's see if I read the whole thing or I stop. The next chapter is called Serena. During the next 10 weeks, Louis got rich. He went every evening except Sundays to the nightclub and played his trumpet for the customers. He did not like the job at all. The place was big and crowded and noisy, and all anyone did was talk too loudly, eat too much, and just make noise. Most birds like to go to sleep at sundown. They did not want to stay up half the night entertaining people. But Louis was a musician, and musicians can choose their working hours. They must work when their employer wants them to. Every Saturday night, Louis collected his pay, $500. Mr. Lucas was always on hand to receive his agent's fee of 10% from Louis. After Louis had paid Mr. Lucas, he still had $450 left, and he would put this in his money bag, hop into the waiting taxi cab, and return to Bird Lake, arriving at around 3 a.m. The dogs see a squirrel or somebody walking in the street. His money bag grew so stuffed with money, Louis was beginning to worry. On Sunday afternoons, if the weather was good, crowds of people would gather on the shores of Bird Lake, and Louis would stand on the island in the middle of the lake and give a concert. This became a popular event in Philadelphia, where there isn't much going on Sunday. Louis took the concert very seriously. He played for the people. He was earning the right to remain free and not have his wing clipped. He was always at his best on Sundays. Instead of playing jazz and rock and folk and country and western, he would play selections from the works of the great composers: Beethoven, Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart, Sebastian Bach, music he had learned by listening to records at Camp Kookooskoos. Louis also liked the music of George Gershwin and Stephen Foster. When he played Summertime from Porgy and Bess, the people of Philadelphia felt that it was the most thrilling music they had ever heard. Louis was considered so good on the trumpet he was invited to make a guest appearance with the Philadelphia Symphony Orchestra. One day, about a week before Christmas, a great storm came up. The sky grew dark. The wind blew a howling gale. It made a whining noise. Windows rattled. Shutters came off their hinges. Old newspapers and candy wrappers were picked up by the wind and scattered like confetti. Many of the creatures in the zoo became restless and uneasy. Over in the elephant house, the elephants trumpeted in alarm. Lions roared and paced back and forth. The great black cockatoo screamed. Keepers rushed here and there, shutting down windows and doors and making everything secure against the awful force of the gale wind. The waters of Bird Lake were ruffled by the strong, mighty wind, and for a while the lake looked like a small ocean. Many of the water birds sought protection on the island. Louis rode out the gale on the lake in the lee of the island. He faced the wind and kept paddling with his feet, his eyes bright with wonder at the strength of the blast. Suddenly, he saw an object in the sky. It was coming down out of the clouds. At first, he couldn't make out what it was. Maybe it's a flying saucer, he thought. Then he realized that it was a large white bird, struggling desperately to come in against the wind. Its wings were beating rapidly, and in a moment it splashed down and flopped ashore, where it lay sprawled out, almost as if it were dead. Louis stared and stared and stared. Then he looked again. It looks like a swan, he thought. It was a swan. It looks like a trumpeter swan, he thought. It was a trumpeter swan. My goodness, said Louis to himself, it looks like Serena. It is Serena. She's here at last. My prayers have been answered. Louis was right. Serena, the swan of his desiring, had been caught by the fierce storm and blown all the way across America. When she looked down and saw Bird Lake, she ended her flight almost dead from exhaustion. Louis was tempted to rush right over, but then he thought, no, that would be a mistake. She is in no condition at the moment to perceive the depth of my affection and love for her. She is too out of breath. I will wait. I will just wait. I will give her a chance to recover. Then I will renew some acquaintances and make myself known. Louis did not go to his job that night. The weather was too bad. All night he stayed awake, keeping watch at a slight distance from Serena. When morning came, the wind finally subsided. The skies cleared, the lake grew calm, the storm was over. Serena stirred and woke. She was still exhausted and very mussy. Louis stayed away from her. I'll just wait, he thought. When in love, one must take risks, but I'm not going to risk everything with a bird who is too tired to see straight. I won't hurry, and I won't worry. Back home on Upper Red Rock Lake, I was without a voice. She ignored me because I could not tell her I loved her. Now, thanks to my brave father, I have a trumpet. Now, thanks to everything, I have the power of music. I will impress her with the intensity of my songs. Usually, if a strange bird appeared on Bird Lake, one of the keepers would report its arrival to the head man in charge of birds, whose office was in the birdhouse. The head man would then give the order to have the new bird pinioned, have one of its wings clipped. But today, the keeper, who usually tended the waterfowl, was sick and had not come to work, and nobody noticed Serena. Serena was being very quiet. Anyway, she was not attracting any attention. There were now 5 trumpeter swans on the lake. There were the original 3 captive swans, Louis, and now, of course, Serena. Toward the end of the afternoon, Serena roused herself, looked at her surroundings, ate a bit, took a bath, then walked out of the water and stood for a long while, cleaning her feathers. She felt distinctly better, and when her feathers were all smoothed out, she looked extremely beautiful. Louis trembled when he saw how truly beautiful she was. He was again tempted to swim over and say cuckoo and see if she remembered him, but he had a better idea. There is no hurry, he thought. She's not going to leave Philadelphia tonight. I will go to my job, and when I get back from work, I shall go near her. Just at daylight, I'll awaken her with a song of love. She might be drowsy, but the sound of the trumpet will definitely stir her dreams. I will be the first thing she sees when she opens her eyes. And I'm going to stop there.